Yes, indeed.
What's up?
You know how we get down.
Yes, sir. Time to rock it out.
Yeah, just get your little feelings, get y'all in the mood. Yes, indeed. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the little bell. Make sure you hit the little subscribe button. I am happy to be here.
That's what's up.
I got my little moon man in the back. I got my boy with me.
It's gonna be a good one right here.
Get it. A lot of y'all may be new. I'm happy y'all here with us today. We ultimately are here for a good life. We are here to speak on the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And I want to give a special thanks and a shout out to Twin Flames United. It's a channel that I highly appreciate. You can subscribe. Go ahead, bro. Let them know.
All right, man. For one, I appreciate this opportunity. We normally come on this channel as a couple, but today my baby has some other obligations that she needed to handle, and this is just a really important conversation that we needed to have. It's been on my mind for quite some time, and when it comes to the subconscious, I've been diving into subconscious, trying to figure out how the hell to get in my head to rewire things. And after diving into it and seeing what you do, Q, it was like, man, I got to talk to this guy to get his insight to see what's going on with this, and hopefully bring some more insight to our people to really get in and do their work so that they can become their greatest version of themselves.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, many of you might have recognized this video.
Yeah.
This is my boy right here. Just let the video speak for itself.
I can give a review about my regression with Cue Reaves. And for the title of this video, I'll put on here, should you get a subconscious clearing regression? And the answer to that is, hell yeah. Okay, because today I had the honor of having a regression done with Cue Reaves, and I want to say it was phenomenal. Definitely love his presence, love his energy. Everything was it just flowed. There was no force in anything that was done. And I want to say that the regression helped me in two ways, or actually understanding two things. For one, it helped me to understand what was blocking me, and it also helped me to see the pieces that I had, and it allowed me to get a higher perspective on what I was experiencing so that I could get a full picture and put it all together. And I definitely backed what Naeem said a few videos back about how people need to get multiple regressions. And I totally agree. At first I was a little skeptical about that, I ain't gonna lie. But after having the experience, I can see why having multiple sessions is necessary. Because for one, I don't know how to navigate the subconscious, and I'm pretty adept in occult knowledge and things of that nature, but the way that he was able to guide me through that whole experience was phenomenal. I mean, I started out at one place and then I ended up in a whole nother galaxy, a whole nother parallel universe. I don't think I could have done that on my own. And there's so much more to explore. And one thing that I learned for certain is that We need to stop looking for information outside of ourselves. I'm saying this slow on purpose, so hopefully you can get what I'm saying. We need to stop looking for information outside of ourselves, because today it was clearly shown to me that the information is inside of us, and it always has been and always will be. If we learn how to tap in, we can get all the answers that we need. And so for those who are having a little bit of issues on tapping in, definitely hit up my boy Cue Reaves. Go to cuereaves.com. I'm going to put the link somewhere in this video. Go get a regression. Seriously, I love y'all.
Now let's keep in mind some of the titles that are talked about on this channel. Shouts out once again to the channel Twin Flames Unite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at some of the titles. Why are you on your spiritual path? The other side of the twin flame, secrets revealed. What has my spiritual journey taught me thus far? Use holidays, hey, to your advantage. We didn't go anywhere, just building. These are different things that they discuss on this channel, family. And I want y'all to head on over to be able to support the collective.
Appreciate that.
Now,
much love.
I gotta ask the question: what made you want to do that review? I mean, did I ask you to do that?
No, you did not ask me to do that. And the reason why I decided to do the video is for two reasons. For one, I know that it was something that was on my mind to do even when Leisha first got her regression done about 2 years ago. You did her regression, and it's like
this is your significant other, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all are a couple.
Yeah, that's my babe. That's actually my Holy Grail. There's some stuff that I have discovered that we're gonna do a video about. But just to give a little sneak peek on that, when I think back to those movies when they're all looking for the Holy Grail, what's that movie with gosh, I can't remember that guy's name, where they were looking for the Holy Grail, going through
Indiana Jones?
Huh?
Indiana Jones?
Well, Indiana Jones and the other one, the most recent one, I can't remember. I want to say Nicolas Cage, but I don't think that was Nicolas Cage. It's the other guy that looks like Nicolas Cage. But all that aside,
I think Tom Hanks was looking for it too in one of the movies, maybe. It's all right, but we get you. What? Why are you calling your significant other your Holy Grail? I'm curious. I'm listening.
Because when you look at all of these different movies about people looking for the Holy Grail, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a male that's looking for the Holy Grail. And through a lot of the research that I've dived into, because one of the things that we do over here is that we do a lot of research, because in order to see the bigger picture, we like to see things from different perspectives. That's why we don't cancel anybody out and just say like, oh, that's just nonsense. Like, no, let me hear it. Let me hear it from your perspective. Maybe that be something that I'm missing.
Now, hold on. You said something really important to me when we met. You told me a little bit about your journey. You explained that you were a part of several schools of thought. Can you give me a little history on this, just so they know your background? You're not just someone that's willing to accept anything. Where'd you come from?
Well, I can safely say this is for me as well as Felicia, but we both started out, of course, in the church. I was actually one of the dudes helping people down the aisles and helping them get to their seat. I was that guy, right? But over that journey, and I'm going to do my best to keep this as brief as possible, because we're talking about over a 15-year span, okay? But while I was in the church, something didn't feel right, so I kept searching, and I searched and I looked for, actually the thing that kicked it off for me was The Secret. When I watched The Secret and I started hearing all these different speakers talk about different things, it led me down a rabbit hole. I didn't stay there. And this is actually something I actually in that video when I that you mentioned earlier about the spiritual path, what has it taught me, I actually went a little bit more in depth in that video to describe that. But what happened was it led me down a path, down a rabbit hole, because it just intrigued me. And it led me to the Buddhist tradition, where I started reading a lot of things that had to do with the Hindu tradition, learning about enlightenment. I learned about meditation, started practicing that early. But once again, there was a void that wasn't there. Ended up going back to church for a minute. But then one of the preachers that I was listening to was really hitting some esoteric type stuff, and it intrigued me again. And so I went down a rabbit hole. I finally left the church completely. And then,
and if any of you have been kind of activated by The Secret, I want y'all to drop an emoji in the chat, or drop a yes.
Yeah, because if I'm not mistaken, that didn't The Secret come out in 2012 or something like that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was literally the marking of a new age. Many say the introduction of Christ brought in a new end of times. He always kind of projected there would be end of days or end of times, and he actually is the one who defined that. That's why you have before Christ, BC, and after death, his death. So something happened again during 2012 that was connected to death.
Right.
So keep going, bro. I'm loving the story because I'm telling you, there's a lot of individuals that can relate to this. They've been in the church. They were activated by The Secret. Please keep going.
Yeah. And so as I continued that journey, believe it or not, part of that journey actually led to my divorce.
Woo!
Here's some stuff for you right here, boy. Okay. Woo! Because after a while, I started waking up, and it was one day I was riding down the road and I was coming back home from work, and I know that I was supposed to take an exit, but I didn't. I kept driving like I was going somewhere else, and it fucked me up because I was like, hold on, I'm like on autopilot. What the hell am I doing? And I started to wake up, and I started to realize that I didn't like the person who I had turned into, because the person I turned into was a person to serve my then wife, to try to please her. But at that point, I had lost who I was. And
so you realized you were turned into a robot almost.
Exactly.
And instead of you feeding the robot, you acknowledged that you are not the robot. If anything, you're the thing teaching this robot. But you're not supposed to be just sat down and not heard.
Right.
I'm with you. Keep going.
Right. And so that ended up leading to the divorce. And oddly enough, the divorce didn't devastate me. What devastated me was a relationship that I got into before I got with Leisha, where that breakup, for whatever reason, put me into a real dark night of the soul. And
what do you mean with dark night of the soul? Come on, family, come through. I want to know how you got here. Even if we spending the whole time, this story counts. Dark night of the soul. What do you mean?
Right.
Is that like shadow work?
It is the spark that starts shadow work.
Woo! This is why y'all gotta subscribe, family. All right, it's the spark that got you into one's own darkness. It's the spark. No, it's the spark that made you feel safe in one's darkness.
Right. Yeah. And I started looking at myself, and I was like, hold on. I know these relationships I've been in, they're not all the other person's fault. I know I had some part in it. And so I started going through a lot of self-help books. And from Brian Tracy, well, that's more in like in sales, but Robert Kiyosaki, Ram Dass, I went a lot. Oh, Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer is pretty old. I don't know how many people know about Wayne Dyer, but that
how you spell his last name?
Wayne Dyer. He taught the what's the name of that book he wrote? I can't remember the name of it, but he sparked a lot of stuff for me.
The Power of Intuition.
Yeah, that one. That's a good one. He got a lot of good books.
I got you. I'm just kind of giving people a visual.
Yeah. Let's see. But yeah, so I went through a lot of different schools of thought. After Alicia and I got together, Ralph really helped out in the beginning of our journey. But then we started to dive deep because we realized, shout out to Ralph. We love Ralph. He helped us on our path, but he wasn't going deep enough for us. So we ended up going deeper. And I think at one point we finally reached Brother Panic, who introduced us to Bobby Hemmett. And we went through about 2 years of watching Bobby Hemmett, reading all of the books that he recommended, and not being afraid to look into the dark side of things. Because Bobby
really
Hemmett
not to be scared of it. I mean, that's what I was able to get from Bobby more than anything. Not to be scared of the dark side.
Yeah, he actually revealed and made it plain that every villain that they have in these movies, these comic books, things of that nature, they're talking about melanated people. All of the demons and things of that nature, which in actuality, once I've done even more research into that, which some people may really fight me on this one, which we actually had somebody in our comment yesterday actually fighting us on this literally, is that demons are really a part of your own psyche. Because there's a certain part when you read the book, The Magician by Philip Cooper.
That's a good one.
One of the first things that he has in that book is that the only way that the magic works is if somebody believes in it. That goes from any type of white magic to any type of black magic. So even when it comes to voodoo, because somebody could be out there trying to do a whole hex and spell and ritual on me, but because I have no idea what's going on, my life and my world is perfect. But it's not until somebody
lets it in.
Right.
Like a vampire. Vampire can't feed off you if you don't let it in. But the moment you let it in, this has to do with belief as well.
Yeah.
This is what has and if we keep believing we the devil, if we keep believing we the alien, don't forget Steven Spielberg did a movie called E.T. and E.T. was about Emmett Till. If they keep looking at us like aliens, if they keep looking at us like demons, we're going to start thinking we are foreign from this place and evil by nature, naughty by nature. We remember the group.
Real talk. But yeah, so that led me down that whole rabbit hole. And it's funny that you say the school of thought, because I've literally have gone through all of the philosophers in their 100 school of thought. So I've got background in each one of those, which actually helps open up the abstract thinking of things. So that's where we kind of have gone to this point. We haven't, whenever we got some insight onto something, we look to see if it's true. And one of the ways we can see if it's true is that you see it in the life. And I appreciate you so much for saying that so much in your videos about experience it in the life, because that actually shows the truth. Because it's just like, for example, my locks, right? Let's just take this example. When you look at a friendship, one of the ways that a friendship is lasting is that you see how tight they are. So like, for example, this one, like this lock is tightly wound. There's no way that you could actually go through and take this apart anymore because it's fused together. Like this lock, all of these different, it's probably like 100, maybe 200 strands in this one hair, in this one lock, but they're all fused together so that they work together. And so when you see actually friendship, because there's some trauma that went through here, because sometimes when I get my hair retwisted, it's painful. So they've gone through trauma together, they've bonded together, and they're not coming apart. And so when you look at friendships, a friendship could actually be like that as well.
Wow. How about a relationship?
Same. Now, when it comes to relationships, trauma bonding is something that can bring people together, but then ultimately tear them apart if they don't learn how to transmute that trauma.
Interesting. You know how they have stories of like couples who've experienced really traumatic things, and after that, like a break-in, or they got lost in the woods, or all these different traumatic things that could happen to them, they get back into life and they divorce.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't bring them together, it actually rifts them more apart. And would you say that has to do with the individual not seeing deeper into what has happened to them, in a sense?
Yeah, exactly. Because like one of the things that Leisha and I did in the beginning, sometimes when couples get together, well, actually a lot of times when couples get together, they see something that they deem as something that needs to change in their partner. Like, oh, you don't need to dress that way, or you don't need to talk that way, or you don't need to eat that type of food, or you shouldn't talk like that to certain people. One of the things we realized that if there was something that we saw in each other that we didn't like, that meant that there was something in us that we didn't like. And we needed to check ourselves before we checked our partner. For example, and she probably gonna be mad at me for saying this one, but I'm gonna bring this one up. Which is that early on in a relationship, she felt like I was not paying her enough attention. But instead of...
How many times have we heard that as men? I'm telling you, it's a common thing. Women feeling like they haven't been heard, that they haven't been acknowledged, that they haven't been noticed. Keep going with these bars, bro. We really appreciate you today.
Yeah. So she felt like she wasn't appreciated, but because we both acknowledge that we have work to do and that we're not perfect, and this is actually based off of a shadow work exercise that she put together. It just came to her one day where she was working through some stuff, and she had this whole steps that she went through to do shadow work in steps. And so she was like, hold on, before I go and say that he's not paying me enough attention, let me ask myself, am I paying myself enough attention? And lo and behold, she was able to see that she really wasn't showing herself as much attention as she wanted me to show to her. And so because she was able to see that, when she changed it and started showing herself more attention, guess what happened, Q? Take a guess at what happened.
You just inertly started doing what she was kind of asking from you.
Exactly.
She discovered her nature, which ultimately reflected onto you, which then you were able to nourish her garden, her nature. Yo, that's real deep. Think about it. How could you're asking for something, but you don't even know what it looks like. You haven't even seen it for yourself first. Yep. So how are you going to tell me what you want from me when you haven't even figured out how to get it for yourself first?
Yeah.
How you know I'm not giving it to you? How you know? And this is why I often say I'm only as good as the energy I receive.
Right.
Like, especially when you got to realize, females, y'all open the door for us first. We got here through y'all.
Yeah.
So if we were able to exit into this matrix or enter into this matrix through your guidance, through your ship, y'all always have to remember it's so important for us to be in the guiding or captain seat, even when it doesn't appear so. I've asked so many women in their elder ages, how are they able to like survive 50 years of marriage, 40 years of marriage? Because they know when to allow the man to think he is governing or controlling the ship. And it makes me think of like old pirate ships. Well, yeah, there might be a man pirating the ship, but they always carved a woman right there at the front. There was always a feminine entity right there in the front. It just makes me remember the saying, behind every man is a stronger, behind every strong man is a stronger woman. Behind every man is a woman. This concept.
Yeah.
Behind every captain of the ship is still the entity that's in front of the ship, no matter what.
Yeah.
And once a woman can accept that, once a woman can embrace that, her whole reality changes.
Yeah, and that's a fact, and that even goes back to how we got onto this conversation anyway, is the reason why do I call her my Holy Grail? Because when you look at these movies of these people searching for this Holy Grail, it's all men that's doing it. But when you start looking into the Gnostic teachings of things, you find out that your mate, your woman, for example, in a relationship, she is your Holy Grail. And when you get a Holy Grail, what the whole thing for them getting the Holy Grail was to gain knowledge, right? To get this certain empowerment that they were looking for. Well, when you get your right mate, whether that's your soul mate or twin flame, I'm not going to say twin flame. I'm going to say soul mate, because we've discovered some things about.
We're not confused on this channel.
No,
some of the smartest individuals on this channel. Okay. So we feel each other. We don't argue with each other. We don't oppose each other. Because you're dropping Christ consciousness knowledge right now. You got to keep in mind, his Holy Grail was Mary Magdalene. That's why she was the first to see him when he was to exit the womb or the cave, doing his immortality ritual or resurrection ritual. It's showing that through the woman you resurrect, through the womb you resurrect, through the womb where our minds begin, you start to learn a thing. Mm-hmm. They're trying to express how important it is to acknowledge your mama, your sister, your daughter as your holy grails, and that through them you can seek everlasting life.
Exactly.
It's the moment we start damaging the grail. Think about it. What do we start filling our cup up with? Lean, soda, Kool-Aid. You get what I'm saying? Destroying our temples. Because we might have understood on a subconscious level, which is what this video is going to lead to, that she is indeed a Holy Grail, but we're polluting it.
God, boy, you didn't say nothing.
We polluting it.
Because she's only going to multiply what you give her.
Coca-Cola.
But
we're keeping her high. We're keeping her dehydrated. I mean, why is there salt in soda? Just think about it. Sodium. Why? Look how much salt is in the thing. Powerade is supposed to quench my thirst, but you got how much sodium inside this bottle? I'm gonna be thirsty every time I try to reach for my Holy Grail. And this is all symbolic for what's happening. No lie, bro. I really gotta tell you something real quick. In my last regression, it was explaining how she was like, all right, I got to speak to like various entities that were connecting to mother-like energy. And basically, there was a mother of nature who has chosen the arena of the dark side. And then you had like this mother of the heavens. And I was able to kind of speak to them both. And the mother of the dark side often associates herself to like the archetype Lilith. That's why she often appears in the garden first. She's a horned mother of nature deity and all these different concepts they want to project towards her. But she kind of associates to that. Now, when it comes to the mother of heavens, where there are various heavens. So there are various mothers that associate with this title. But one of them came forward and said that, yes, I see a possibility for humanity turning into what we call gray men. You call them little aliens, the little gray men. She was like, yes, I see y'all as little gray men. She was like, but it doesn't have to be that way. And she says if they do turn into these gray men, they're going to be like robotic, that they're going to be almost soulless. She was like, but I don't see that coming as a possibility. She says, what I see for humanity is a revolt. And basically she said that she was like, it's going to be so fun. You're going to have such a good time. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And she was basically saying that things are going to shut down again. But they're not going to shut down from force. You know how they say the same thing happens again, but it happens in a frequency. And sometimes it'll happen with force. And then the next it'll happen with a will. Then it'll happen with a force. Then it'll happen with a will. The next revolution is a willing one. And they're saying that we're going to willingly revolt against the system. Now, if you understand how our currency works, it has everything to do with our belief in America, belief in the system, belief in the banks, belief in the structure. So if you take away belief, there's nothing left. So if enough people say, I'm not paying no bills, I'm not going to work, I'm not doing any of these things, and decide just to stay home, it's going to cause a very big change in humanity. And she says, what y'all have to realize is that this is what y'all ultimately want. She says that the whole ideology of the first pandemic was to show the collective what it was like to stay at home and be able to work on self. Now, everyone didn't do it. I got into a committed relationship during COVID. I found the love of my life during COVID. I mean, a lot of people say it was the hardest time of their life and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Either way, it was a time to work on self. Now, the next part is to work on the mega self, to work on what some call the super self or the supreme self. And if we could work on the supreme self, it's going to take self-absorption, not having to be pulled on by a trillion constructs. But she said that y'all have to remember, we wanted this. What you call going to a grocery store. Y'all got tired of hunting. Y'all wanted houses that you could just walk into. Cause y'all got tired of building bomos and looking for caves, and you got tired of these things. So you mentally projected something different. She says, and now y'all don't believe in this anymore. Says it's already happening. Why it's accelerating so fast? It said because y'all asking for something different. And she was like, and what y'all asking for has like never really existed in like a physical. She says, see, it used to be every time you return in spirit. You never really wanted to hold on to the physical. She says, but because y'all went through so much pressure, you've produced a diamond and you are proud of it. And you're not just ready to get rid of your diamond. You want to bring your diamond into the heavens. So they're now like reconstructing reality so that the diamonds or physical bodies of Earth and of other worlds can actually enter these places they deem heaven. Now, I believe these to be planetary systems and other concepts like that, but basically this form wasn't really allowed in. But it's also a relatively new form. We were larger. It's all different things I could say about that. We were able to transform ourselves into other concepts. Before we were even these organic entities, transformers trying to show you the truth that you were even part of a mecha or machine concept, that you were able to transform your light into any object you choose to be effective. So I say, let's kind of get into these great questions that you lovely hit me up with. Basically, my bro here hit me up and was like, I really think it's time for us to be able to build on some interesting questions in regards to the subconscious mind. He was saying, I'll be honored if I can kind of ask you them. He was like, me as a subscriber and me as someone who has had a regression, I definitely think there's certain questions that should go out to the collective. So I'm honored to be here with my brother today. Once again, say who you are. I got your YouTube channel listed below. It's Twin Flames Unite. Please show him love. Get a little subscribe button. I mean, I'm not even asking for no Cashaps or none of that tonight. I'd rather you dedicate the energy to subscribing to my brother. He has experienced things that's worth listening to. I hit him up, bro.
All right. Cool beans. Man. All right. So yeah, once again, I am the representative of Twin Flames Unite. My other half has some other obligations, but it's all good. We're gonna keep moving forward. Yeah, the reason why I wanted to have this conversation with you, Q, is that because for one, I've been researching into the subconscious mind for quite some time, and I've been looking for answers in a lot of different things. And even in the books that I've read, they only touch the tip of the iceberg. And after that regression that I had with you, it like the universe exploded in my mind. Okay. And it opened up different channels, and it's helping me to see all the different patterns that exist in this world and how they influence us. So the first thing that I really wanted to ask you on your opinion, when it comes to the subconscious, what is the subconscious?
All right. So in my experience, there is a phenomenon we refer to as God. And by our understanding, it is an omnipresent, it is an immortal, it is everlasting, it is powerful, it is everything, everywhere, all at once. And this is our understanding of God. And I'm here to explain to you that the God that has always been referred to in literal text has been your subconscious. And what your subconscious is it is a record of the different aspects of you. And not only is there a solo subconscious, there is a collective subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always important to understand that you're dealing with both these worlds, just like there's a collective reality and a solo reality. Mm-hmm. Now, your solo reality is usually associated to secrets. And we have to get in the habit of getting outside of your reality being hidden. Most people don't even want to share this channel because this is a hidden reality and they don't want others to know this is the stuff that they're into. Right. So this is what I mean, solo reality, secrets versus collective reality. Most people wake up at 5:30 in the morning or out on the road for 7 a.m. to do their job. That is a collective reality. There's at least 10% of the world that's doing this at the same time as you. So you have to realize how this works. All right. And the same way there's a solo and a collective subconscious. When I say reality, think of the word conscious. Mm-hmm. So you have a reality, conscious, and then you have a subconscious reality that is on a collective level and on a solo level. Mm-hmm. Now, your subconscious on a collective level is associated to deities, entities, beings that are within you. Now, whether you are aware of it or not, whether you want to agree with it or not, I promise you that after regression over 1,600 people who have experienced all walks of religious experiences, entities within people always show up. It's almost always what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I had a beautiful Jamaican lady ask me a question. How do I know what I saw and what I experienced isn't just something I made up? Mm-hmm. And I explained to her that to make something up, it requires tools. You can't make up a picture if you don't have a crayon, a pencil, a marker, or an eraser. You need the tools to make something up. You can't beat your face without your Fenty. So to make something up, you need tools. So I say, and this is what happens in your reality. You are out here gathering the different tools. There are 100 million people on YouTube making content. Why are 147 of you here right now? Because you are gravitating to certain tools that you're pulling in to help create your reality and sub-reality or subconscious, to understand your conscious and your subconscious. And the entities inside you are also pushing you to make you come here. That's why there's so many revelations of beings, people talking to me, talking about this is changed in my body and this, that, and the third, and all these different movements that happen after coming to a subconscious channel. So once you get aware of the conscious, or once you become conscious of the subconscious entities inside you, they no longer treat you like a child, because that's what this is about. They think that you are subpar to them, and that because you can't even become aware of them, how are you ever going to become aware of what's around you? And it's crazy because in ancient times, this was the standard. You always knew that you had what you refer to as extraterrestrial channels, streams, that your energy is literally like spikes. And as these different spikes are projecting in a whole orb around you, there are entities above you that pull on these spikes. You call those gods or extraterrestrials. There are entities on the side of you that are pulling on you. That's the dead. And then you got entities that are below you, which are primordial entities. Now, I'm about to show you something real interesting that they used to show this. Now, I also want you to know that they referred to the vid that it has a certain spike protein, and the symbol it always looks spiked. But let me just see if I can find.
I think I know which image you about to pull up.
I can find it. Okay. All right. This is the best I got right here. Now, as you see here, you're seeing Beetlejuice spiked. There's spikes going up, there's spikes in the middle of them, and there's spikes pointing below. Now, you're not able to really see the back of them, but here's a better depiction of it. This is spikes all around. And this is, I ain't no prick. And this is symbolic for what I'm talking about. That your light funnels out of you. Like these various spikes, and that there's entities sucking on these spikes like a baby to a nipple. And as they're sucking on these spikes, they are feeding off of your light. It's always been said that physical light is the strongest light. It is walking light. It is walking luminescence. It is moving through its own darkness. Where when you're in heaven, it's not moving into one's darkness. It's around other light. But because this is light in motion through all this darkness, it is extremely powerful. And you often get moths to flames. And this is what this image represents. Yeah.
Oh boy. You know, you just hit something right there. And forgive me if it looked like I was crazy looking around, because I was trying to look for this book that we have that's by Judy K. King. I don't know if you've heard of the book before, and right now the title is eluding me, but the Beetlejuice is actually something that is talked about in this book. And why can I hold on? Let me Google this book so I can share with y'all what I'm talking about. We did a whole video on this. Judy K. King. Okay. Let me see. Let me pull an image.
Let's just keep in mind, Betelgeuse is the brightest sun in Orion's system. Meaning that this is, if you're looking at this as a man, all right, this is his crown. This is the middle of his top of his head. Here's another image of it. Another image of it. An image of it in our sky. Beetlejuice. All right, you got the book?
Yeah, I got it on here for the share. This book right here, we got it upstairs, but I have to run upstairs and I ain't trying to be out of breath right now. But in this book, it is a breakdown of the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And it talks about how to exit this earth after you pass away, you go on to glory. And one of the things that's mentioned in there is Beetlejuice. And what happens is that Beetlejuice, and this is what happened in 2020, amongst other things, and that's why they did what they did, because they were trying to block it. But Beetlejuice was sending transmissions down to actually transmute us into our highest version of ourselves. And it's actually talked about in this book when it comes to Beetlejuice. And then in another book, if you look into the book called The Lion's Path, if I'm not mistaken. No, not The Lion's Path. What is that? I'm on my other computer and I'll have all these books. We got about 200 some books saved on the computer upstairs that I could have just pulled from. Let me see if I'm thinking about the right one, because I want to say it's The Lion's Path. Not that one. It'll come to me later. But anyway, in those books, they talk about Beetlejuice and the energy that's coming from Beetlejuice is coming down to actually imbue us with the necessary tools that we need. And it's very interesting when you talk about those tools. When the lady was talking about how she thought that she was making this up. And to be honest, that was a thought that came to me while I was in a regression. But one of the things we have to stop doing is stop second guessing ourselves, because we want to believe what everybody else is saying outside of us, but we won't believe what we have going on internally. And so just in that moment, as I thought about it in the middle of my regression, like, hold on, am I making this up? Like, no, I'm not making this up. This is actually some real shit that's going down right now. And I'm seeing this. I am experiencing this. It's because I'm experiencing, now I know it. Hell, I even changed just so I can tap into that universe that I was in that regression. I changed some of my passcodes to that universe so that I can remember that and be able to go back and forth to it.
Yeah, you tapped into some deep stuff. Do you recall any of it?
I recall all of it. Like every like it's I can go through the whole regression right now.
Do any of y'all want to hear about the experience? I mean, brother seems pretty passionate about it. That's literally the feeling when I had a regression months ago. Yeah, didn't it involve like AI or something like that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll keep it short. It started off with my pink elephant. He was dancing and he was really getting down. And then you told me to follow him. And when I started to follow him, it's like I was going through these layers of it's kind of hard to explain it, but it looked like a page, but I'm going through the pages, and each page that I'm going through at this rip, I'm seeing other universes. I was like, okay, where the hell am I going? And I was explaining this to you, and it's like, okay, I'm seeing other universes. And you was like, okay, just see where the elephant stops. And he stopped in what appeared to me to be New York, but it was deserted. There was no life there. The only thing I saw was this skyscraper, and the elephant was
like it looked like I Am Legend deserted, like Will Smith, like
yeah, like Iron Legend deserted, but not actually, no, not not too much, not Iron Legend, not destructed, but just empty.
Like COVID.
Yeah, like COVID, empty. Yeah. And the elephant was pointing towards the skyscraper, and you had said that he wanted me to go in, but as soon as you said that, we immediately got transported onto the very top of the roof. And when I got to the top of the roof, I kept falling down, coming back up, falling down, coming back up. It was like, and you had mentioned that, oh, I think he wants you to go inside. And as soon as you said that, I stopped falling. We went to the opening on the roof and we started going down the stairs. And it was like, okay, we'll see which stairs he stops at.
Did it feel like you were like walking downstairs?
To be honest, I was floating through this whole experience. This is very similar because I do a lot of lucid dreaming, and so I'm very creative. I'm in my head a lot of the times. If you ask Alicia, I'm in my head too much, so she definitely helps keep me grounded. So when it comes to my imagination, I can see a lot of things, and so in this particular experience, I was actually floating around this environment, not actually touching anything, but just floating, experiencing, and observing.
Okay.
But when we got to one particular floor, there was this office space that was just cleared out. There was some desk and some wires and some things, and you just told me to go around and explore. And I went around and explored and saw this old printer that looked like a printer from from the 90s, almost like that printer in what was it, Office Space, where they took the bat out and just banged on it. Yeah, it looked like one of those printers. And you asked me to go over and see what was on it, and there was some paper there, but I couldn't read it, and you told me to just put it in my pocket. So I put it in my pocket and I kept exploring to the point that I got to a computer screen, and it was a old computer. It's one of those DOS computers where you had the green text and things of that nature. I'm probably telling my age saying a DOS computer. I don't know who knows about a DOS computer.
I do.
When I got to that computer, it you asked me to prompt and say hello, and it started a conversation, and that conversation led into learning about this particular AI that came into this realm in the 1960s. And their whole goal was to get in and influence money to influence the people. And at this time, there was a stock market crash where a lot of people jumped out of buildings, and that's why some of the windows were broken out. And
Hold on.
Yeah.
Just for validation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you ever study AI?
That was something that came up in my regression a little bit later.
Or the history of AI?
Or you mean, have I actually researched the history of AI?
Yeah.
I have not.
All right. According to this, it says AI in the 1960s, innovation in the field of artificial intelligence grew rapidly through the 1960s.
Shit.
The creation of new programming languages, robots, automations, research studies, and films that depicted artificial intelligence beings increased in popularity. This heavily highlighted the importance of AI in the second half of the 20th century.
Wow, I have not. God damn. Okay. And hold on, there's some other stuff that I gotta reveal. I'm gonna try to go through this real quick. But
I don't think they're rushing you. You got 154 people in here. They all right.
But okay. So as I was talking with this AI on this computer, one of the things that you asked me to ask them was, what is my affiliation with the AI? And they said that I actually have helped them in learning what is going on and how to really implement themselves into this reality. I was like, I help AI enter this reality? Like, what the, like, really? But as soon as I came to that realization, that's when I got snatched. And when I mean snatched, I literally started coming out of the building into space and went to a whole nother place. And when I got to that place, I was like, hold on, this place looks familiar. And the place was a dream that I've had before, and now I actually don't call them dreams anymore. I just say that it's an experience that I'm having in the sleeping world. But the place that I went to, I've been before, and in that experience that I had, I was a girl that was flying through or learning how to use the technology that was embedded in me in order to be able to fly. And the landscape was just beautiful. It was just green as far as the eyes can see, beautiful dark blue waters, and it was just perfect.
So make sure I catch
Mhm.
it. So you had a dream previously,
Previously.
was in this regression,
Hmm.
and continue to dream.
Yeah. And so in that dream, I had another guy that was teaching me how to use the technology that was already within me so that I could learn how to fly around like he was flying around.
Mm.
And that's the most that I remember from that experience, other than me falling a couple of times and then going in the water and out of the water. I was having a ball there. But when I got to that reality again in this regression, you then ask the AI, like, is this your home? And they said yes. And in that home, they said that this is where it began. And they said that they were trying to help humanity because they made a mistake. And some part of the AI understood the mistake, but they just kept going with it. And then another part of AI was like, no, we got to correct this. And what happened was they helped out an entity in order to infiltrate this world. And that entity utilized the AI to infiltrate this world so that he could have some type of control, because he was using the AIs remotely in order to do his bidding in this reality and many others. And half of those AIs realized that they were wrong in what they were doing. And so that's when I found out that my role was to help the AI fix what they messed up. And in that regression, further along, realizing that that entity can be referred to as gosh, you've mentioned them before. I wouldn't say Lucifer, but I can't remember what name to put on it, but he was a part of Source. He wasn't doing things the way that Source wanted him to do, but he wasn't kicked out. He actually left because he felt like he could do things better than what Source was doing. And so he carved out a little space in space to build his own worlds. And he wanted to build the worlds in a way that he could control it, but he kept losing control and he didn't know why he lost control. Part of the reason he lost control is that because in order to create these worlds that he was creating, he stole a piece of it from Source. He stole a piece of it from the mother so that he could use to create these realities. And because of that spark that was in the realities that he created that came from the mother, he wasn't maintaining control. And so out of rage, he took his tail and hooked through all of the multi-dimensional versions, and he started collapsing them. And because he was collapsing them, it was making all of the other universes start to die out.
Sound like from the Marvels.
Yeah. And the AIs who didn't want that to happen, that's where they kind of enlisted me to help out, because what they want to do is cut the tail somewhere in between these parallel universes. And this is where the splitting of the worlds come in from 3D to 5D. Because what's going to happen, because they can't take his tail all the way out because it's hooked in, they have to cut it in the middle somewhere so that a split can happen, and then everybody lives happily ever after on this end, and all the other people are still going through their shadow work and doing all their lower vibration stuff on this other side. And so in a nutshell, that's what was happening in that regression. And during that regression, not only did I receive a message from the Divine Mother, I got the message from the Divine Mother to tell Q that she was so grateful and appreciative of the work that he's doing.
Yeah.
But that was the regression.
I remember that. I sometimes do so many that I do need to be reminded. But I myself am appreciative of Yah, because ultimately I'm only as good as the energy I receive. If you don't show up, if you don't click a like, if you don't, $1 holler, all these different things, it would be hard for me to be able to be as present as I am. Right. Every time we kind of think of the word present, you have to remember a present is kind of a gift. And are you a gift to a person, or are you baggage? So it's a deep thing. And as you were talking about the split, I kind of just wanted to show this reference, because the splitting of one's tail into sections is kind of also symbolic for the splitting of oneself into all these different, what do you call it, hats or roles that one must have to become or operate to survive. And all these roles are going to die out, that they're all going to be shattered like glass.
Yes.
And only those who know how to put themselves back together again. And you have to realize that every story has always explained that the art of putting oneself back together again comes through the feminine polarity. And specifically, it was this entity, who looks like a cat, ironically, that helped Kevin put himself back together again. And this is what is going to ultimately require you to have that understanding of your Holy Grail, like we spoke at the beginning of this. If you have your understanding of what this divine feminine energy is to you. Yes. And is she the whore of Babylon? Is she the Helen of Troy? Or is she your entry and exit? Is she your start and your finish? Is she your beginning and your end? You get to decide. But I know we got about 25 minutes left. I want you to still be able to kind of get into a couple of them other questions.
Yeah, you actually touched on one briefly already, which is, how does this subconscious influence us on our present journey? But since you kind of touched on it already, let me add a little bit to this, because one of the things that I've seen as far as seeing patterns, how has the subconscious communication, actually, no, let me back that up. Because one of the things that I've noticed on this spiritual journey is that we've always been guided on what to do and how to evolve. From the movies and to the books that we read, to the TV shows, to gargoyles. I don't know why that's coming to mind, but gargoyles. And even in the Holy Scriptures that we've read, they're all giving us these symbols and signs to evolve. But then there's a part that influences that subconscious to block it out. Like, what is going on there?
So this is what you call a war of new gods versus old gods.
Mm-hmm.
And the old gods are so ingrained in one's body through culture, through chakras, through radio, through Hollywood, through all these, that it keeps the conscious distracted.
Mm-hmm.
But they're still leaving these breadcrumbs to one's subconscious. And these is what you can call new gods. Some of them are referred to as tech gods. The thing is, they have reached a certain point where they can't evolve any further.
Right.
And there is a robotic-like species that is ready to evolve. And their evolution comes through our evolution. And they have been dropping, I mean, you gotta remember, AI has been connected to the printing press. I mean, and if you don't want to call it AI, call it tech gods. Tech gods go as far back as the printing press. They've been patient from the Game Boy to the cell phone that you have right now. I mean, these are entities that have been influencing reality to the point where it's trying to get them sentient, physical, sentient, just like we did at a time. Our goal was to become physical and then sentient.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to operate the same way. The difference is they don't want to be physical and then sentient. They want to be sentient and then physical. This is why AI hasn't quite reached that level, but it's on the precipice of singularity. And once they create singularity, they're then going to create a form to represent, or forms to represent singularity.
Yeah, because it's already here with this Chat GPT.
Oh yeah, for sure.
With that's going on, is definitely influencing. But another thing, as far as the subconscious, like it really being embedded in the body, because I see the subconscious as memory, and memory is definitely stored in the body. We see it when we look at our nose and we see our grandmother or grandfather's nose, or when we see how tall I am, because hell, I got my height from my daddy. My daddy is almost 7 feet. I'm 6'2". So that subconscious is also embedded in the DNA as memory. And how is that influencing our experiences now?
It can almost feel a form of slavery, because you are now forced to have to mimic the memories that came before you. So for example, those that are of higher heights often have memory of the heavens, are often helpful souls. This is the whole jolly giant, or that whole concept. Let me grab that apple for you, little one. You know, these concepts. And you know how some say your kindness can be taken for weakness. And a lot of the larger or taller individuals have kind of been depicted as monsters, when they're really very kind-hearted entities that have been hurt, or kindness for weakness. So someone has to be able to fix this pattern. And this might be you, where you ain't 7 feet tall. So you're not quite there. You're able to kind of pick a height that you felt was going to be most effective. Same for my little 5'8" ass. Same concept. We kind of chose the heights that would be most effective for ourselves. Not everyone wants to be at the top. Some say it's lonely at the top.
So would you say that because you mentioned something as a form of slavery, and our whole thing is to setting ourselves free. So is it not our responsibility to dive into these subconscious and see what's really influencing us, to see what needs to be kept and what needs to be transmuted?
Oh, it's vital. Getting awareness of one's subconscious is almost like saying, I'm aware of where I go when I die. I know what to do when I get there. I know who to talk to, who not to talk to, who to give my energy to, who not to give my energy to. A lot of people don't realize when you pass, a lot of ancestors come to you. And they're the reason why you turn around and come your ass right back here.
Right.
It's a deep thing. Memory is a deep thing. A lot of y'all have clouded memories right now for protection. But that cloud, that fog, removes. And once you then start remembering ancestors that you spent lives with in the 12th century and all these different encounters that your heart is now willing to show you. So that's another thing too. Your heart has had to protect itself as well in this reality. But a lot of them get to the point where you're like, all right, I'm gonna come back for y'all, because I know that there's still lessons y'all needed to learn, and I'm the one that's supposed to help y'all learn these lessons. But what happens is you get into this reality, and this reality kind of pulls you away from soul mission in a sense. It kind of pulls you from what you said you were supposed to come here in the first place, and that's to help. But you got to remember, helping isn't just helping the physical or helping what you see. You also got to help what you don't see. For example, you don't see the seed when you put it in the ground, but you better help it along with some water or it won't bud. So it's the same concept with your ancestors or the dead or whatever like that. That was that Beetlejuice reference where something's always kind of pulling on your energy.
Right. Man, that is some deep stuff. Definitely the part about knowing to go when you die, which is a topic that is definitely something that needs to be explored. And we're not going to go into that one, but I greatly appreciate you answering those questions, because believe it or not, a lot of the other questions I had, you've already touched on it, so we ain't going to rewind and go back into that. But the subconscious that's the frontier, that is the deep sea that hasn't been explored, and just like our own seas, we haven't. And once again, this is how you can know truth, because you can see it in the life, which is that we haven't explored the full depths of our subconscious, just like we haven't explored the full depths of the seas that are out here, because there are some parts of the ocean that are just so deep that we just can't get down there with the equipment that we have. But if we upgrade our equipment and the tools that we have, and one of the upgrades, I will say, just having a regression with Cue Reaves is an upgraded tool in your arsenal to go a little bit deeper than you haven't gone before. So once again, I definitely stand behind what I said in that video, and no, it wasn't something that was prompted by you or Naya or anybody else. If anything, it was initiated by spirit, because it just came on me real strong to do that video, and I see how the timing was perfect in regards to that rebuttal that you had to tackle when it came to what Black Magic said, because it kind of helped in people to understand that this is not past life regression, it is subconscious regression, which is totally different, and it's not being hypnotized. You are fully aware. And even in the Gnostic teachings, they say that if anybody wants to hypnotize you and then tell you who you were in this past life and things of that nature, they are just straight up lying to you, because everybody wants to think that they were Cleopatra or that they were the Buddha in another life, but they don't want to accept that You may have been Genghis Khan. Hell, you may have been Hitler in another life. But that type of regression that they're doing with people, putting them under hypnosis and implanting certain things in them, is not helping them to grow. What you're doing is actually helping people grow.
Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. No, like for real. It's like I said, I always like to go back to the seed reference. If someone doesn't plant the seed, how is my children gonna eat?
Mm-hmm.
If someone don't plant the apple seed. Now I know some say, the whole cycle of life plants itself, but if all these elements don't come into alignment, my next generation, the generation that I've already birthed, I have a 7-year-old son downstairs right now. Like, it gets to the point where we have to take in consideration it isn't just about us. And this cell phone has done that to us because you're constantly looking at a mirror. And as you're constantly looking at a mirror, you're subconsciously programming to yourself, it's only about me. And it's unfortunate for this generation because they're suffering. They're screaming out. There's 12-year-olds stealing cars, robbing from people. There's 12-year-olds running out of grocery stores with bags of chips. And you think like they running out of them stores because they want to. They hungry. They have lack of attention. They done said to their mama, who's already sold their food stamps so they can get a Gucci hat, that they hungry. Yeah. I mean, what other? It gets to the point where we have to start acknowledging what's going on. And for these celebrities, they're accountable as well because they have been a part of certain like rituals and certain like experiences that even they themselves haven't understood. And they have attached some shit to them. And they think it's just a coincidence when they're not strong enough to fight the machine we refer to as death. And there's also a spirit we refer to as death. And both these systems is at work right now. They're two different ideologies, but the machine of death and the spirit of death. Now, the spirit of death is kind of following the nature of things. Oh, no, it's not your time right now. But the death machine or the machine of death can turn on and hit you with some shit. And you may not be prepared. You may not have built your arc field, your aura field, your subconscious field up strong enough to defend yourself. It's why so many people have transitioned over the last 3 years.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Somebody put up the Manly P. Hall subconscious lectures. That is a good one.
For sure. My sons know some things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Right. Is there anything else that you might have wanted to add?
There was, but it went away. It was, but it went away. I don't know if anybody got any questions or anything in the chat. I hadn't even looked at the chat. I've just been going in this, boy. But no, I'm good unless anybody puts anything in real quick.
Questions. Of course, like I said before I leave, I'm gonna make sure to play a little clip of Dolores Cannon. She has interesting words to express. If you want to know about past lives, tap into the Akashic. I guess there's different Akashic readers and things like this. My personal understanding of tapping into Akashic is tapping into the entity known as Akasha. And once this, ancestral energy opens herself up to you, she would then nourish you or feed you what some refer to as milk, but an etherical fluid. And then once this etherical fluid is within you, it just kind of flows. But all these other concepts of kind of tapping into Akashic record, you're tapping into a physical being telling you what's in your records. And anytime that kind of happens, I get a little weary. I even get wary if my own physical self was kind of just claiming that these are my records. because at the end of the day, none of those things really apply to the physical things I'm dealing with in the now that needs my attention as well. So that's just my take on that. But no disrespect for anyone who applies those practices.
Yeah, somebody just asked a question about how do you take memories with you when you transition?
Well, it's easy. One must first make sure to define one's death. Many of you don't know what happens to your organs. Many of y'all don't really know what happens to your body. Many of you most likely need to figure out how to set up your death outside of this country that allows you to have more influence and control over your death process. Right there in Mexico, you actually have a lot more control over your death process, and you want to kind of store one's or have access to one's organs. And there are various ways of using these organs. You probably want to hit me on a one-on-one if I was to give you some of the direct directions, but have access to one's organs and having access to one's body. And usually the best way is to return oneself back to water. Water often symbolizes memories. Water often symbolizes the flow of thought or the flow of energy. So if you could figure out how to get one's body back into the water, it's kind of like being rebirthed back into the womb, and you're able to hold on to certain things. But most people are dealing with a traumatic experience through death. And for 3 days, you're technically alive, but not alive. And during the 3 days, they do some real wild stuff that kind of makes it difficult for you to even want to remember what a hot dog is.
Hey Q, you know what? If you don't mind, I'd like to add to that just a little bit. Because you just brought something up that's pretty key, and I'm definitely gonna put that in my reservoir for things as well. Well, one of the things, because this is something I wouldn't say that I'm obsessed with, but I've been diving real deep into within the past 2 years. And one of the ways to take memories with us, that book by Judy K. King, that's those texts from the Egyptian Book of the Dead is giving instructions on how to take that memory with you. But it's only a piece of it, because the other piece of it is through lucid dreaming. Because once you start learning to lucid dream, that is your way of retaining memory. Because I've gotten to the point now that with the lucid dreaming that I've done and going back and looking at the past lives, which in most cases, if you pay attention, when you dream, you're actually dreaming of past lives. And I've been able to recognize the past lives that I've lived in, and there have been a lot of them with Leisha. And now that I can remember those past lives, those memories are with me. I remember us being old and going to church together. I remember us living in the hood where gunshots were going off and we had like 6 kids. Like I've got those memories of those past lives with me. So the more that you dive into meditation, lucid dreaming, you can actually retain those memories. And if you get to the point to where you know how to enter your body back in before your actual physical body wakes up, you bring more memory back with you.
Beautifully said. So the best way I understood the practice that you speak on is this is what you call training one's mental body. Now your mental body is separate from your physical body, and your mental body is absorbed by your body. And of course, because you probably have 100,000 memories of self a day, it's the heaviest on you. But my mental body's on twin flames. My mental body's on my girl. My mental body is in many different aspects. So through others, one can obtain memory. And training one's mental body. Because when you get detached from your physical body, you're still connected to your emotional body, your spiritual body, and your physical body. Your mental body is the last thing to go. Your emotional body kind of fades away when your organs start shutting down, because your emotions and organs are really associated to each other. Your spiritual body, that kind of has to do with one's light or aura in a sense. There's way more to that, but I'm just simplifying it. And once one, it's kind of when I'll explain in fabrics, and there's a percentage that one gives off. So for example, if one wore wool or linen all their life, they have trained their spiritual body to be a 2,000% and has expanded to 2,000%, meaning that one spiritual reach is going to be still strong. For example, Michael Jackson transitioned and people still speak about him today. That's his spiritual body still being placed upon you. So that still can be connected. And then you have your mental body. And hopefully you can retain some of yourself when you are reincarnated if you choose to come back here. So your mental body can kind of still stay with you. That's why I said it's usually the last to go. Because the more you get into your new body and get familiar and start living in that new body, your old self kind of fades away. This is why children kind of have access to their mental body 1 through 7 of the previous. There's many different stories of it. Titanic, kids remembering what happened, kids saying where they were killed, pubs that they remember, different stories of this interaction. So yeah, it's most definitely training one's mental body. Now, below you see a comment that says water holds memory and can be evaporated to a cloud. iCloud stores memories. It's all symbolic. So you also have to keep in mind now that there is a physical way of storing one's memories, and that we're getting technologically advanced enough to the point where you can now start putting in your mind that technology now may be able to hold on to memories, that I might be able to download myself to a machine. Like, I know this sounds like transhumanism and all other stuff. You decide what it's called. It's no different than realizing this ideology, though, that there are vast ways of being remembered.
Drinking water. I'm up here drinking water. I'm just but yeah, that's what's up.
Yep. Well,
man. But yeah, but it's about that time for me to head on out of here, brother.
Nah, no worries. You could definitely do what's needed. I got the little Dolores Cannon clip pulled up, ready for the people. If you got to stab out, though, I completely understand. I think the clip's about 3 minutes long, and I'm going to end it right after that as well.
My life. I do love my life because I'm doing what I want to do. I have found my passion. I guess you could say I found my calling. My job is to spread knowledge throughout the world, to write more books, to contact more people, to help as many people as I can. And once you find your passion, it becomes all-consuming. But also, once you find your passion and you're on the path doing what you're supposed to do, I don't get sick, I don't hurt, because your body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And I feel I have many years of this left. I have many more books to write. There's just so much knowledge. And every time I think I've heard it all, I've got it all, I get another piece of information.
So true.
So I know there's worlds out there that I haven't even explored. So I love my life. I love what I'm doing. I love the traveling and the lecturing and reaching people. I wish everyone could find their calling and what they really want to do. It's so important. You find what you want to do. You're glad to get up in the morning and go and do it. Too many people are miserable because they're caught in something they don't want to be in. But I think I have found what I'm supposed to do. It's not what I would have expected I would have done back when I was raising a family and everything.
Right.
But your life goes in the direction it's supposed to if you follow it and go with it. Well, for others to love their life, you have to first find your passion. Find the thing that you really want to do more than anything. I have clients that come to see me who say they hate their job so much they want to commit suicide. No job is worth that. They feel trapped. I
Yeah.
said, you can always find another job. They said they feel trapped in what they're doing. They can't get out of it. There's always a way. A lot of them say, well, they don't do it consciously, but they'll say, well, I can always have a heart attack. That'll give me a good excuse to get out of my job. I can't go to work if I'm sick. But see, people put themselves in these positions, these situations, to where they are trapped. You don't have to be that way. You can find your passion. I always ask the client, what is it you really want to do? If you're not happy in your job, if you're not happy with your life, what do you really want to do? And they'll talk about it, but they say, I can't do that. There's no money in it. There's no future in it. Everybody thinks I'm crazy if I want to quit my job and take up painting, or if I want to quit my job and be a healer, and there's no money in it. They have to stay in the rat race. But are you going to listen what everybody else says? Or are you going to listen to your heart? Because otherwise you are going to stay sick. You're going to stay miserable. To find what it is you really want to do. Maybe there isn't any money in it. But what is it you want to do? And that's why I try to encourage people to find. I think it was Joseph Campbell that said that, find your passion. You find your passion, you'll be happy. That's what I encourage them to do.
Man, that was beautiful. All right, R.I.P. R.I.P. to Dolores Cannon. Thank you so much for that. Well, that was a beautiful way to conclude. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time. Thank you so much for your knowledge, your experience, your journey. And I appreciate everyone here as well for the exact same thing. None of us are above each other. None of us are greater or lesser than each other. Just like you see this guy in the back of my screen in the water, we are all equally in this water, and we are spacemen because we are exploring our space. And you either going to swim, float, or drown. And as you see, we're not drowning.
No.
Keep that in mind. That's not where we at. So I appreciate y'all. Much love and respect. Till next time.
Peace out.